Palm trees are often thought of as being particularly difficult to get a realistic look. Let me explain my inking technique for palms that I think captures the real feel of even the individual species of palm trees well. So here's one particular type, and let me say we are not going to be drawing outlines. We are not going to be drawing around the palm fronds. We're not looking at defining shapes. What we're going to be doing is blacking in with our ink patterns and shapes and values, creating silhouettes that together combine to give the feel, the visual effect of how a palm tree looks. But before that, we have to take a good look at what a palm tree looks like. We have to observe this particular palm we're drawing under these conditions to work out exactly what are we trying to find an ink technique for. The overall form, the edges, the silhouettes, the overall flowing arrangement. We need to look hard to see where are the lights and darks, how are they played out, and to start to think how we might capture the lights and darks, the edges, the overall feel, in this case the sagging shagginess, I think, of the way the fronds look as they grow and develop. Once we've thought that out, now we have to work out what marks will be useful. And now I have to do something I will never be too experienced at drawing not to do, and that's to play around with some marks, experimenting to see are the sorts of inking marks I'm thinking of using, in the way I'm thinking of using them, going to capture how this looks, the feel of the form, of the three-dimensional form overall, as well as the particular parts. Now in this case I'm drawing them larger than I normally would because I'm drawing them larger than actual size, and I would normally try and do this actual size, but I did them a little bit larger just to make it clearer at this point what I'm doing. But you see, I'm trying to capture the lit up exposed fronds that flap downwards as they separate from each other, going back towards the base, and they're like big hands of fingers falling downwards. And so this is the feeling I'm going to want to try and capture, because that's fundamental for the overall look. Remember, I'm not trying to see what one of these fronds splayed out perfectly on the ground looks like. I'm trying to see the effect of how they hang. It's this hanging effect, which is so important for palms in general, but for these types in particular. So are the marks I'm going to do going to show up the way I want? Negative space, drawing the darknesses between rather than drawing the fronds, is going to be a very important part of this, so I want to experiment with that as well. And I'm just trying now a different part where some of the fronds are behaving a bit differently, and I've also got the effect of where the fronds come in front of each other. This layering of fronds as they move back in the canopy is very important. So I want to have a go, at least at this stage, to see is what I'm thinking of doing going to work, because if it's not, now's the time to find out and to perhaps explore some other marks, other ways of doing it. And again, I think I'm reasonably happy with how this is going to look. So before I actually start the drawing, please hit the like button if you're finding this interesting for me. Let me just show you what we want to not do, and that's to start to do these highly simplified cartoon-like versions of how we know these fronds might look if they were, well, looking differently. If they were iron smooth, iron flat, and laid on the ground. Yep, I'll move this up in a moment. But this is what we don't want to do. We don't want to start drawing what we think they look like or what we know they look like, but not how they look here in this arrangement on this tree in this light. So this is what we're going to avoid, and I'm using a 0.2 uni pen fine liner. So I'm starting pretty much in the center, because what I'm going to try and make sure I do is to keep the overall proportions, the overall shape of this as accurate as I can. Now, tree canopies have a little bit of forgiveness. They're not quite like architecture. We can push things out a little bit here or there, and usually if we don't go too much in that direction, it will still look fine. So this is a quick drawing. It takes me 16 minutes to draw in real time. You're watching this at double speed. So this actual demo section is 8 minutes. So if you want to watch me draw this at real time, use that cog icon to slow this down to half video speed, and that will give you my actual drawing time. And of course, you'll find this photo reference on my channel post page if you'd like to have a go drawing this yourself after you've watched my demonstration. Notice what I'm doing. Firstly, I am using the experience I've gained doing my experimental marks. I'm drawing the sagging fronds where they hang down at the front, because that's what we see mostly. Where they angle back towards the base, we're often looking at that very edge on, and so the perspective angle is very high. So the foreshortening is extreme, so we don't see a great deal of that. What we see are the parts that are sagging forward or actually dropping straight down. And where they drop down in a row, they form an edge, they form a line in effect, because they all bend at the same place. And so the shadows that come up underneath them all stop in the same place, and that creates the effect of a line. So this is what I'm trying to do. And if you watch carefully, just pay really close attention to my nib, you'll see that most of the time I'm actually filling in between the fronds. I might draw some lines, but I don't actually then color in carefully around them. I use them as guidelines, and I then layer some shadowed blocks over the top of them. And this roughness in this inking technique, I think, helps to create that feel of shagginess, that feel of there's a little bit of everything happening all over the place here. The other thing I'm doing at this stage is I'm starting to watch the overall shape. It's really easy to suddenly do a frond a bit bigger, and then the frond on the other side a bit larger again. And suddenly one side of our tree is twice the width of the other, or twice the height. So that's an important thing to bear in mind, what's happening with the overall structure. And sometimes I'll actually do some dots right around what I think is going to be the circumference silhouette edge to help me work out how high I want to go. In this case, I went up to the height and then came down. Now, overall, this tree canopy, this palm canopy that I've drawn is a little bit stretched. It's a little bit high for the width, but I think it's within those parameters where I'm not going to worry about it. If it was a building, it might look a little more odd, but then if it were a building, it would have been easier to keep it in proportion, because it's easier to judge more box-like shapes against each other than some of these highly irregular forms that we're drawing. But you can see what I'm doing now. The one thing I haven't really captured in a way that I would like to, and if I were drawing this again, this would now be my focus, is the strong lit versus shadowed contrast. So I've put just a few too many lines close together on the fronds that are in the light, and that's not allowed enough white paper to show through to create that effect. One of the things I'm always talking about is the need to critique our drawings as we go, but certainly at the end of the drawing. And when I looked at this afterwards, that was my main thought about it, that really I should try and preserve more paper where the sunlight is hitting. I don't need to draw the lines going across the, if you like, the flat of the fronds as much as I have. If I just do a little bit and the odd dot, our brain will understand that's happening, and we will preserve the wonderful sunlight. So, never too experienced to learn and to do better on the next drawing. If you don't critique your drawings after every one, even if you think that, oh, that looks really great, there are always things we can learn. It is the most important way that I've learned and improved. It's by critiquing every drawing, because it gives me a focus for the next drawing. And often it lets me choose a subject that will push me in that area right at the time I'm thinking about it. So you can see what I'm doing there. I'm trying to look at my photo and see the overall effect, and I'm not trying to draw fronds. I'm trying to capture these long shards of leafery, and the shadows and the edges and the curls and very importantly, the silhouettes. The silhouette edges are always particularly important in any subject because the eye sees them so much more clearly, more easily than much of the rest of the drawing, particularly when we draw in black ink. So we want to really slow down a little bit and observe the silhouette edges and work hard at getting the scale and the angles and just the feeling and the way the different marks combine together as close as we can. Look here what I'm doing. I'm drawing this as much now by drawing the shadows of the underside of the leaf that we can see through the bent bits hanging down. I'm not trying to draw a shape, a form. I'm trying to capture visually the effect of what I see in my reference. And what I have to do is not let myself start thinking of what I know about how these palm fronds look on the ground in perfect condition. The last thing I want to do is to start drawing those. I hope you have a go drawing this. Please hit that like button if you haven't already. And if you've never shared any of my videos with friends who draw, why not get in the habit of sharing the ones that you have found particularly helpful, because that would particularly help me out. Really appreciate that. And here we go with a few more bits up the top. Getting near the end, it's about now I've realized I've shot up just a little bit too high. When I made those dots to estimate the top, that was where that didn't work out. But it's still very much how these palm trees look. Do you think you'll have a go? I'd love to hear your experience on drawing palms and trees in general, and check out my tree drawing playlist if foliage generally is a problem for you. I've got a couple of hundred videos there, every type of tree you can imagine under every type of different circumstance and condition, and videos on the different marks we can use to create different types of leaf effects for different types of trees. So really helpful, and also everything on branches and flowers and grass and ferns, anything to do with green foliage of any description you'll find on my trees playlist. So why not give that a go? How do you think this is looking? G'day, I'm Stephen Travers. I hope you found this as helpful. I always enjoy drawing trees, and palms are a lot of fun. So I hope you give this a go and have the same fun yourself. But whatever you draw and however you draw it, however it looks, make sure you do have fun. See you next time. Bye.